Learn how to read and extract the raw HTML markup from an existing web page element using both jQuery method and native JavaScript properties. In this lesson, let's look at how we can get HTML content using JavaScript native alternative as well as jQuery HTML method. So let's move into our boilerplate code and then let's start writing our code. So the first thing I want to do here, or that needs to be done here, is that we need to add two different elements with generic div and an ID, and again we add a paragraph inside it, and then we add the second one, div ID 02, add a paragraph, So now that I add these two elements, let me move inside the script tag and then use the $sign to select document and pass the function. And inside it, make a variable. Then use the $sign to select your ID. So let's pick the ID of 02. And then pass in the HTML method since we want to get our HTML content. And then you can go ahead and pick demo. Or better still, let's get what we have inside of 2 into 1. And then our HTML method, and then just call in our contents. And looking at what we currently have, we're actually not seeing anything changing, because if you check at my screen, that is because there's nothing like content in my code. My variable name is my var and not content. So I need to update this to my var. And now you should see that both are now sharing the same content. You can see we are getting the content inside the element of an ID of 02 into the element of an ID of 01. And now they are both sharing the same content. So let's now do the same using the native JavaScript format. So JavaScript is equivalent to making your own variable and call it my var. And then use document.getElement by ID to target the ID that you want to manipulate. And here, because I wanted to write to the DOM, I need .inner HTML as well. Once it picks that ID, and once it gets it, then let it go ahead and write inside document.getElement by ID. So let it write inside the element 1. Once it gets it from element 2, inner.html equals to my var. And you should see the same thing on the screen. You can see that both the two elements are sharing the same content. So this is how you can use the native JavaScript way to get HTML content. So the getter and setter duality is what is at work here. Just like where we have the text methods and then the jQuery HTML method, they pull double duty. In this very example, you can see the way they are, the way both of them were able to manipulate the elements and then swap what they have inside of both of them to be the same thing. So this particular example shows us a web page that starts with 2 boxes, and then when the page finishes loading, the script copies the entire inner HTML structure from the second box, which is our div with an ID of 02, which is hello Sweden, and then it saves this layout inside the variable called my var, and then paste it directly into the first box with an ID of 0 and replacing its original code. So if you look at what we have here, so let me uncomment this so that we can do a code breakdown to understand what just happened here. Now, the let variable equals to $id hash 02.html method. If you look at this particular line, I'm talking about this second line, because the .html method has empty parentheses, it acts as a getter. That is, it reaches inside the div with an ID of 02, scoop up the raw markup code string, that is hello Sweden, that is contained as the content inside of it, and then it store it in that my var variable, which is what we have here. And then the next one, which is the one that follows, because there's data inside these parentheses. I'm talking about this my var variable. It acts as a setter, so it targets the div and then flushes out its old content and replaces it with this code structure that we just copy from this first ID that we have here. And now look at the one for vanilla JavaScript as well. You can see that what basically happened here is that the modern web browser provides an identical native tool, which is equivalent to this inner.html. And its purpose is to redraw HTML layout instantly without importing jQuery. So by reading the inner HTML content, we now saved it here. And once it has been saved here, what we save here is what we are now saying, okay, replace what you get in this ID with what we have saved in the initial one. And that is the reason why it is possible to override the content of the first element and replace it with what is contained in the second element. So now let's quickly look at key takeaways from this lesson. Number one, reading with the HTML method or native inner.html, extract the exact element tag along with the text, allowing you to replicate layouts perfectly. So this is only a text demonstration. We can as well replace layout in some instances if there is need for it in our code or in our application. Another thing is that moving from jQuery HTML utility to native inner HTML requires zero structural logic changes, making it an excellent candidate for keeping modern scripts lightweight. So by using the inner.html, it helps us to keep modern scripts lightweight, unlike having to pull this jQuery library that we have in our code because of the fact that we need to write jQuery code. And this is one of the reasons why this is preferred over the jQuery method, just because of being able to perform in a lightweight manner due to the fact that it does not depend on any external library before it can run.